Hello, I am going to be talking about the election coming up on November 3rd, 2020, and why it is such an important election and why it is so important you vote and the ways to vote. I'm going to cover all that in this presentation. So I just want to start this off by explaining why young voters are so important. Can't emphasize that enough. Young voters account for half the voting population, making them a powerful political force. Millennials count for about 22%, and Gen Z counts about 20.5%. Just big percentages, as you can see. So we have a real big effect on the election coming up. And on the 2016 election, actually, about 45% of young voters didn't even vote. Only boomers voted, and people like that, and Gen Z and millennials are the most diverse voting group right now, so it is imperative we get our voice heard. So there's one website to check where to register to vote, your voter registration status, and your location of vote. So super convenient. Go to this one website, registertovote.sos.ga.gov, and you can register to vote there. You can check your registration status, and you can check what location you have to go to vote. And the deadline to register to vote is October 5th. I found this deadline on vote.org under voter registration deadline tab. And that website basically has all the deadlines. And I'm going to keep explaining that throughout the presentation. So there are 3 ways to vote. There is the mail-in ballot, there's early voting, and there's voting in person on election day. So let's go to mail-in ballot information. So we're going to go to the same website I just talked about earlier, www.mvp.sos.ga.gov, to request your mail-in ballot. Or you can also go to securevotegA.com. I just keep emphasizing the first website just because you can do everything on that website. So you might as well just go to one website for everything instead of going to a varied amount of websites and confusing yourself, So the mail-in ballot information, part 2, basically what I'm going to say is the deadline to request a ballot is October 30th. Again, you can find this on the voter.org under the voter registration deadline tab. So you can request a ballot. The deadline for that is October 30th. However, the U.S. Postal Service does recommend requesting a ballot 10 days earlier. It's super simple. You go on the website, you download the ballot, you print it, and you can mail it to the voting office, or you can to the election office, or you can email it to them. Once you do that, they will give you your ballot, and then with your ballot, you either put it in your mailbox so that it gets sent, or you can drop it off at the postal office. So super simple, not that difficult. And now let's talk about early voting. So early voting, same thing. You go to www.mvp.sos.ga.gov, and keep in mind that it is essential you check your location before you go. So when you go on the website, 4 boxes will appear on the screen, and you will click on early voting locations and times. Go there, and you will see your location and what times it's open. For me personally, my early voting location differs from my regular voting location, the location I'm supposed to vote on November 3rd versus the early voting location. So just make sure you have that checked before you go and cast your ballot. And also keep in mind that when you register to vote, if you put in your home address, then you will have to drive back home and vote. This is a PSA for the college students. But if you put in your dorm address, you can just vote around the Augusta area. So to each his own. Do whatever is the most comfortable for you. And of course, make sure you bring your state ID, like your driver's license, when you go. Wear a mask, take some hand sanitizer. You get it. And then voting in person on election day. Same thing. Be aware this could be the most crowded day at the polls to vote. But, as long as you're safe, it should be okay. Casting your ballot is very important. So even if you delay it to the last minute, please get it done. Of course, stay safe, wear a mask, take your hand sanitizer, check your voting location too, and make sure you take your driver's license when you go. Uh, and then I kind of got the ways to vote in on the website ways to vote in Georgia elections, sosoga.gov. I got it from there. Yeah. So emphasizing 3 ways to vote: mail-in ballot, early voting, voting in person election day. There's so many options to vote. There shouldn't be any reason that you don't cast your vote this election season. And I'm just gonna emphasize how important it is that we vote and get our voice heard. The person that is the policies that are enacted by the government for the next 4 years will impact the younger generation the most. So we need to make sure that our voices are heard for the next 4 years. Therefore, this election is important to make sure we have someone who we want representing us and making sure they have our best interests at heart. And you can actually check each person's voter platform too. Go on Google and go to joebiden.org, and you can check Mr. Biden's platform on his page. And to check our current president's platform, you go to gop.gov, and that's where you get the Republican Party's platform for this election season. They are using their 2016 platform again this season, so thought that was important to point out. Yeah, that's about it. It is so important you vote. Remember, you're not only voting for president, this is a trickle effect. You're also voting for important cabinet positions like Secretary of State and Treasurer and Supreme Court Justice positions. So make sure your voice is heard.